Okay, well, let's jump right in. Okay, here's what we're going to cover today: the advantages for the lock ring, functional principles of the lock ring connection, lock prep. You got to use the lock prep and the correct amount and the dosage. The curing times, you need to do that. You need to avoid excess heat. We'll go through that. The assembly process for the lock ring connectors, all important. And then the frequently asked questions. Okay. Looks like we've jumped up to 6 people today. Great. Glad to see the answer. Okay. Then we're going to frequently asked questions and then the added product value. Okay. The advantage to the Lokring lock ring connection. Okay. Versus brazing. That's interesting. Okay. It takes you about 40 to 60% of the time that it takes you to braze. Okay. It makes things a whole lot simpler. Things are more reliable. It's cleaner. There's no nitrogen that you have to blow through the system. There's no equipment that you have to haul in. If you made the class last week, one of the things that I said about the lock ring connection is, with the torch, I don't have to carry my torch, my accessories for the torch. I don't have to take in my gauges. You'll have to take in a set of gauges, but you don't have to take in my vacuum pump or anything else like that. You don't have to have a nitrogen tank to blow through the system. No heavy equipment, no fire protection. You can repair it in the customer's home with no need of removal. The one thing I'll tell you is, if you haven't done it, please go out and watch the video on the guy that was working with, I believe it was GE, and he shows why you don't want to use R-600 with a torch. They aren't compatible at all. Okay. So no fire license. It's more cost effective, and a lot of the OEMs are approving it and saying that that's what they're going to go to with the R-600. Okay. So you can use this on all of it. It can be used on a HFC, an HFO, or an HC. Okay. So you can use it R-600, 410, R-12. If you find something that's still got R-12 in it, you can use it on any hydrofluorocarbon. Okay. The first functional principles of the lock ring connection. Okay. I can see why I have an unstable connection. I apologize about that. So here's the areas of the connection. What you'll do is you'll actually, just like you do with a solder joint. Okay. You're gonna actually cut it. You're going to put both of the connectors on it. Whenever you do that, you can see right here, there's an insertion area. You have to make sure that you insert it all the way on both sides. You're going to slide the connectors in and then lock them in. If you'll notice, there are C is the main sealing area. What else is going to have to, or you're going to have? You're going to have some lock prep. Okay, lock prep is the key. Okay, this cannot be over a year old. This expires. We're gonna go through it. You have got to make sure that your lock prep is the correct date. If it's over this date, then you are going to have to get new lock prep. Okay. So my working pressure is 360 psi. Okay. My temperature range that this will operate, -58 to 302 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. If something happens and I'm soldering near that for some reason, I don't know why you would have it, but you would, if you have anything that like you're going to have to heat prep it, because you will mess up the lock ring connection. Okay. The minimum wall thickness is 0.4 millimeters. It's approved for all refrigerants except for ammonia and CO2. Okay, everything else will work with this product. Okay, so let's move along. So maybe that'll stay now. Okay, so everybody knows that your metal tubing, okay, doesn't matter which one it is, could be a copper, could be a steel, could be a iron. Yeah, any of those, as it goes through the process and it's milled, um, you actually has grooves that it goes through as it's being milled. So we want to make sure that our metal tubes have been cleaned and prepped so that we can now put the lock prep on it. That will help seal it, seals all of the tubes, and then we're ready to put the lock ring connection on, and then we're ready. Then we can go ahead and use the lock ring, whichever tool you use. It'll make it easier, and it will fill the gaps, and you won't have any leaks. Okay, lock prep is an antibiotic sealant. It's not an adhesive. It hardens under the absence of oxygen while in contact with the metal ions. Okay, after curing, its elastic structure is permeated, is permanently retained in the temperature range of -58 to 302 degrees. Since lock prep does not contain solvents, it doesn't have to. It won't evaporate during the hardening. The finished connectant is ready to use shortly after the assembly. It depends on the temperature that you're operating at. If you're at a very low temperature, it will actually, pardon me, it will actually take a little longer for it to cure. We're going to go through that a little later in the presentation. Okay, so whenever I had discussed this before as it's being milled, you can see right here that this is what you're actually filling with the lock prep. Okay, if you notice, there's all of these grooves are here. You've got them, so you've got to have the lock prep so that you can fill those microscopic cavities. So lock prep compensates for any unevenness in the tube surface. Lock prep will flow into the microscopic cavities and fill the voids completely. After curing, lock prep takes on a semi-solid state. So we're going to get a little deeper into that in just a little bit. Okay, so this is your dosing guide. Okay, if I'm using a capillary tube, whether it's 1.6 up to 3.2 millimeters, I'm going to use either like a half a drop to a drop. Okay, if I'm using it on tubes and I'm at a 3.5 to a 5 millimeter, I'm going to use 1.5 drops. Okay, tubes 6 to 8 millimeters, I'm going to use somewhere between 2 and 2.25 drops. Okay, tubes 9 to 11 millimeters, I'm going to use between 3 to 3.5 drops. So the biggest question most people have is, how do I get a half a drop? Well, what I know about this product is you can kind of squeeze it and then move it, and you'll know whenever you've got the right amount whenever you go and start to put the connections together. Okay. See, so here's your curing time. Okay. If you look above, this is your curing time in minutes on the left side, and then temperature. Okay. If I'm at -10 centigrade, which is 14 degrees Fahrenheit, if you look at about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, if it's cold, you're going to have, maybe 50 degrees in the house, and it will, you'll move it. It's going to have a longer curing time. If you look there, it's somewhere around 35 to 40 minutes. Okay. As it gets warmer, okay, your curing time it decreases. Okay. So if I'm at, let's say I'm at 86 degrees Fahrenheit, you can tell that's like about 5 minutes, maybe 8 minutes. Okay. So as your curing time increases when the temperature decreases, I said it the opposite of that. Okay. Temperatures above 302 degrees Fahrenheit may burn out the lock ring and cause leaks. This is where, like, if somebody had used a torch on it, you can actually, it will actually not work properly. Okay. So excessive heat. Temperatures above 150 degrees centigrade, which is 302 degrees Fahrenheit, may burn out the lock prep and cause leaks. Okay. Keep this in mind if you braze near the lock ring, like single ring or the double O connector. Never braze a lock ring unit without protecting the joint from heat transfer. So it's just like it used to be with the, excuse me, whenever I used to do this, and I had a torch, I always prepped everything with with either, you can't use a hot rag because it will actually suck into the system, but I used a heat treatment that came in a tube. You can do the same thing here with the lock ring to prevent it from getting too hot. Whenever this stuff gets hot, it goes on like a paste, like a toothpaste, and then as it gets hot, it will actually increase, and it will end up flaking off. Okay, so the one thing, like I said, you have to make sure that you have here is the expiration date. Okay, it has a 12-month shelf life. If you look on your bottle of lock prep, it actually gives you a 2-date code, which is the month, and then a 4-date code, which is the year. Okay. Never use expired Loctite. If you use an expired Loctite sealer, you are not going to get it to seal properly. Okay. So here's your material safety data sheet. It's a nitrite rubber, or rubber gloves that you should be, are recommended for you to wear. Cotton or other absorbent gloves should not be worn because it actually will suck it into the glove itself. Okay, it needs to be stored somewhere between 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, rules of art: respect to material safety data sheet for lock prep. Okay. Lock ring connectors. These are the connectors that are used on most refrigerant lines. Okay. So one of the things that you have to be sure of is that I have the proper sizing. Okay. And I want to use the proper material. We're going to get to that a couple of slides later. So this will work somewhere between 1.6 millimeters up to a 10.5 millimeter OD, outside diameter. Okay. Millimeters should be used for the sizing. The materials, it will handle anything from brass, steel, aluminum. It'll handle all of the tubings that we use in refrigeration. Okay. So Cu is your basic copper. So if I go copper to copper, this is the brass connector that I'm going to use. You're going to have to measure it with a set of calipers. Okay, I'm going to, if there's my connector, if I'm going to go aluminum to aluminum, you'll see right there that you're going to have to use an aluminum connector. Okay. what can I do that where I'm going to go aluminum to aluminum? The nice thing about this is I can actually um, move a fin out of the way and actually seal the fin, which is great if you're working on an old or even I've heard even the newer ones still have the same problem with a with several of the refrigerators where you have a leak in the aluminum fin coil. Okay, your brass connector. You're going to go between copper and steel. You notice your brass connector there. If I go between copper and aluminum, I'm going to use the aluminum connector. If I go steel to steel, I'm going to use the brass connector. Okay. So Vulcan uses part numbers. Okay. Their part number tells you what size it is, what kind of connector it is, what material it's made out of, and the connector type. Okay, so the straight brass connector is your tube size is an 8. Your straight connector is an NK. Your material is an MS. Okay, and your connector type is a 00. That part number is an L130000592. Okay, a straight aluminum connector, exact same thing except that it is aluminum. Okay, which is the AL connector. Okay. Okay. If I have a reducing connector, okay, where would I use this? This would be used on any time that I'm going to have to reduce the size of the connector. Okay. So my tubing size is 8:2. It's NR is a reducing connector. The material is MS, and then my connector type is a 00. Most of these are all going to be in refrigerant in the regular refrigerator that's in a home is going to be a 00. Okay. The aluminum reducing connector, again, 8:2 NR, and then it's AL as your material. Okay. Here's the thing that you have to measure. Okay. We're going to measure your tubing size. How am I going to measure that? I've got to have a set of digital calipers. Okay. My unit of measurement is millimeter. I'm going to have to select that on the caliper itself. Okay. It will move. I need to measure the tube in 2 different locations. Okay. The buttons and locations may vary by the manufacturer or the model. Okay. As you can well tell here, this is digital caliper. You've got a locking knob. You've got your thumb wheel. You've got your 0 button here. And then you have your on off button. Okay. So let's talk about how do I measure my jaws. I measure them, the inside jaws. It'll show right here. You can see those. I don't want to get them all the way back on the far right. I want to get it just at the where they go to meet. Okay. And then if I measure from the outside of the jaws, okay, measure OD. So the inside of the jaws measure ID, the outside of the jaws measure the OD. Okay. Okay. So what am I going to do? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean my caliper every time I use it, just to make sure that I don't have anything that's going to cause my caliper to be not give me the correct reading. Okay. I'm going to fully close the slider and zero the unit in. I'm going to set it to the millimeter setting, and now my calipers are ready to use. Okay. So connection made on how to measure. Do not calibrate, like I said, in the very back of that caliper. The caliper you need to use on a 1.6 to a 3.2 millimeter at the very end on the right side, And then if I've got a 3.5 to an 11 millimeter, I'm going to measure it there in the center. I do not want to push it all the way to the back. It throws the calipers. It will give you an incorrect reading. Okay, so the capillary tubes right here, it shows you. Okay, 1.6, 1.8, 2.0, 2.2, 2.5, 3.0, 3.2 millimeters is a capillary tube. If you see right there on the bottom right side, on the bottom right picture, okay, you can see that they're measuring a caliper. I mean, using a capillary tube. Most capillary tubes on refrigerants for today's in-home refrigerators, you're somewhere between 1.8 and 2.2. Okay, so 1.8 and 2.0 are the most common in the U.S. Fit doesn't fit. That's what you have to check. Okay, so if you look on this one is measuring 2.0, and so your tolerance is a 0.1 millimeter. Okay, my connection elements, tube sizing 3.2 to 10.5 millimeters, and that's at a 0.5 millimeter increment. Okay, so as you can tell right here, that is a 7.92 that I would be looking for the correct size. Okay, this one is copper, so it would be the one on the left, unless I was going to a one that doesn't have the copper fitting. It has an aluminum fitting. Okay, so my tolerance is plus 0.2 millimeters. My tolerance exceptions here, like I said, 5 millimeters to 3/16 is 0.76 millimeters. A 6 millimeter to a 1/4 is 3.5 millimeters. Actual size range is on a 5 millimeter is 4.7 to 5.2. That's the correct tolerances it'll allow. Okay, for a 6 millimeter, you're going to get somewhere between a 5.9 and a 6.4 millimeter tolerance. Okay, so as we go along, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to sand. Okay, I'm going to clean my tube ends. Okay, I'm going to do the exact same thing that I do with every other one. This is the way that I have always cleaned my tubes since I started in this business. I wrap it one time around and I use it like a little saw thing, and it'll does a really good job of cleaning it. Okay, you just want to get it so you're getting those right around where you're going to be sanding. If you look down on the picture just below the writing, it shows you where you need to sand, and it needs to be done in that motion right there. Okay, so as I get done and I have actually sanded, now I'm going to apply my lock prep. Okay, it shows right there. I'm putting my lock prep on both ends. Okay, once I put those lock prep on both ends, I am going to at that time push those two together. Together. Once I push those two together, I'm going to after I've inserted both the ends, you have to make sure that you're meeting them in the center. Okay, I'm going to take and spin that lock ring connector with my fingers, and then I'm going to push that a little closer to the side. As I push that closer to the side, I'm going to grab my tool. Like I said, it doesn't matter which one you use. The one that they teach you on is the tool that's on the right-hand picture. I'm going to lock those two in. Whenever I do, I'm going to hold that on my weak arm. I'm going to hold that. I am going to reach my fingers around, hold that together, put the tool in, lock it in. I'm going to crank it down. As I crank it down, I'll be able to watch it and I'll see the two come together. Once they come together, okay, I want to make sure that they're all straight, all even, nothing pops out. If it pops out, you are going to have to redo it. Okay, you've got to get it so that your tubings stays in all the way. Okay. After you've closed connection, you must wait for the cure time. So as I'm closing this connection, okay, I now have done it. Let's say that I had a line that leaked and I replaced it. So now I'm just waiting for it to cure. I have to go back to my curing chart. I use my curing chart to tell me how long I have to wait. I can be doing other things while I'm waiting for it to cure. I can be writing it up. Okay. Idle, as my father tells me, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Okay. So frequently asked questions. I always try to keep myself busy whenever I'm trying to operate at maximum efficiency. Okay. So here's a little bit about Lokring. Okay. It's not a new technology. In the 1960s, Lokring was invented to solve brazing joint problems with aircraft. Okay. Vulcan Lokring was integrated into the Vulcan Hackworth group design. And that was in the 1979. And then in 2010, a compatible range of connectors for HVAC appliance applications was launched. Okay, so if you see, due to the isopropane Lokring quickly dominated the OEM service market. Today, 2 billion Lokring connectors have been installed in both HVAC and refrigeration. Okay. So here's some questions. What size range of tubing can Lokring be used with? Lokring connectors range from 1.6 millimeters to 10.5 millimeters. Okay. There are other options that you can do, but you need to talk to Vulcan Lokring about those options. They have different claws that can be put on. So just make sure that this is all you're going to need if I'm doing a regular refrigerator. Okay, it's 1.6 to 10.5 millimeters more than we're gonna need. Okay, so how fast does the Lokring tube joint system compare to brazing? Okay, reports in the field say that it's about 40 to 60% time savings. Okay, I don't have to have a nitrogen purge. I don't have to have a fire watch. I don't have to have any heat shields, and I don't have to have any additional personnel to help me. Okay, it works on all standard refrigerants. Okay, it won't work on ammonia, and it won't work on a CO2 system. Okay, can I use lock prep that has recently expired? The answer is no. I am going to tell you that we had Jesse from Lokring at Encompass Days. Whenever Jesse was going through the stuff, he looked at his bottle and went, "Well, I got to go get a new bottle of lock prep because this one has expired." He threw it away, went to the front counter, got a bottle of lock prep, and he went on with his business. That's how important it is. Okay, how much left prep should I use? Like I said, you go back to that dosing amount that I just showed you at the program, and use that to show you how much dosage you should have. Okay, how quickly does lock prep start to cure? Okay, it cures in about 20 minutes. Okay, that's usual. If you're at a cold temperature, it's going to take longer to cure. It can take up to an hour. So make sure that you're allowing it to cure the right time. Okay. So here are the two types of lock presses that they have, okay? They have the lock tool HMRKV. This is your manual tool. Now, I have tried to use one of these. I am not the greatest guy with one of these, I will tell you. But if you go to the one on the right that's a lock press mini, I hate to say this, but even an old guy, an old slow guy like me, that's pretty. You mash the button and it does all the work for me. So if I'm gonna be in this business and be serious about doing this, I may start out with the lock tool, the HMRKV, but I am definitely going to find me a lock press mini because it is so much faster. It is more expensive, and it is to me it's faster. It even increases the speed. Okay. What assembly jaws are required for Lokring 00 connectors, which are the ones that we're going to use, that you will be using whenever, excuse me, that you'll be using whenever you're doing common refrigerator problems. Okay. If you see right here, it shows you the lock tool M8B. Okay. That for tube sizing 16 to 18, 16. Well, I'm sorry, 1.6 to 8.5. I'm getting ahead of myself, which is 1/16 to 5/16. Okay. That's going to be my 00200. On my 00201, that's 9 to 11 millimeters. That's 3/8 tubing. My 00202 is 12 to 13 millimeters, and that is your 1/2 inch. So, like I said, that's all you're going to need for today's refrigerator. Okay. What warranty is there? Okay. AVC warrants the products against defects in workmanship and material for 1 year from the date of delivery. The complete terms of the warranty can be found in AVC's terms and conditions. Does the installer need to be certified to use the Lokring connector? Here's where this is what, and this is not no lie. Okay. I would never use this product because I am not certified to do it. Please take the time to get certified to do this. It is worth your time. It will save you money. In the end, you're going to be 1,000 times more happier with Lokring. The guys that go out and they don't get the certification, you know what? These are the guys that you hear and oh man, this stuff is a piece of junk. I wouldn't ever use that. That's the guy that wasn't trained on how to use it. Please make sure that if I don't say that enough during this presentation or from now on and you talk and I talk to you, I'm going to tell you, did you get certified? That's where I'm headed right now, is to be certified. Okay. What happens if lock prep enters the system? This is a good question. Okay. When the Lokring connection is made in accordance to the Lokring assembly instructions, liquid lock prep will never come in contact into the system, oil, or refrigerant. In the case too much lock prep being applied of the OD tube, the clearance ID of the connector will remove the excess lock prep when the connector is placed over the tube end. Okay. So as you're pushing that back in, as you're pushing those two joints together and you're putting it into the connector, that's how it pushes it out and doesn't push in. Okay. So what's the tightness of the Lokring connectors? The tightness measurement is described in the European standard for approval testing standard. Asks for the tightness of less than 7.5 to 10.7 to 10 to 6 millibars. Okay. So evaluations of tightness on the Lokring measurements have shown that their average tightness level is about 2.9. Okay. So once again, I'm going back to my brass connectors. So copper to copper, I'm going to use the brass connector. Aluminum to aluminum, I'm going to use the aluminum connector. If I'm going copper to steel, I'm going to use the aluminum the brass connector. If I'm going copper to aluminum, that is the aluminum connector that we have to use. If I go steel to steel, I'm going to use the brass connector again. So, like I said, if I'm going aluminum to aluminum, I'm going to need the aluminum connector. If I'm going copper to aluminum, I'm going to need the aluminum connector. Otherwise, I'm going to use the brass connector. Okay. Okay, so this right here shows everybody that has signed up. Well, that's interesting. Signed up to say that as a manufacturer, I'm recommending Lokring. So you can see Bear, Bosch, Electrolux, Hitachi, LG, Miele, Siemens, Samsung, Whirlpool. Most of the manufacturers that we deal with are out there. Okay. Product training certification cost. Okay. Instructor cost. This is what you're going to need. Is $60 per hour with a minimum of 3 hours. Okay. You're going to have, these are the materials that you're going to have. You're going to have to purchase the key ring chains, $40 per package. If it's a domestic flight, it's $700. International is $2,500. Hotels are $125 to $200 a day. That's somewhere and that's the national average. So the total expense for domestic training is about $1,120. International training is $2,920. So if you're going to do this, this is definitely what you need to either go to their class or you need to have them come to you. Okay. So here's the digital marketing. We're not going to go through that because we're not marketing people. We're not salespeople. We are service people. So ISO 9001 compliance was obtained in 2015. The ISO, that's interesting. The ISO 1401 compliant and all of the others, the ISO 14903 compatible testing has been done. Okay. So here is your code to follow them on Lokring. This will give you all the information that you're going to need. Set up a class. So go ahead and use this and get yourself certified. This presentation will be on the website. So if you need it, you can go back and scan the code then. Okay. So any information given in this presentation will be herewith disclaimed. Basic target presentation is the presentation of information. No responsibility is given for the correctness, completeness, and assembly. This is all of the fine writing and everything that you have. Okay. So this is the end of the Lokring connectors usage. Does anybody have any quick questions?